Welcome to East of Eden Readings. I'm your chief consultant, Reverend Rock, here to oblige you on your unique journey through the self-discovery. And tonight, I'm going to discuss capitalism. I'm going to educate you, enlighten you on something that I composed years ago. And it goes like this. The blind force of the people is a force that must be economized and managed. One of many riveting quotes out of the book Morals and Dogma, published in 1871 by a Confederate Civil War general and 33rd degree Grand Commander of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite chapter, Freemasons. Excuse me. A morbid philosophy convicted in a most influential ranking officer of the time, delegating a profound organization. The word blind being merged in a doctrine amidst words like force, economics, and managed leads me to conclude, in contrast, the obvious effect anticipated. This particular ideological principle can only exceed such to state, quote, in order that our fraternity may benefit from a mutual disadvantage, end quote, which constitutes a deliberate campaign to initiate a free labor society under the guise of a free enterprise social order. Capital is thus the image inaugurating business, the archetype implementing fair trade, or a fair and square deal, whether on a large scale or small, in any ism. Revenues of capital are the essential focal element of its business. Revenues, proceeds, or profits are gains of advantage in the exchange, in the capital conspiracy. How then can one achieve a profit in an equitable fair exchange? Someone, the consumer, must take a loss or nurse a handicap in order that another, the producer, proclaims a gain. It is a basic law of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposing reaction. Sir Isaac Newton. Witness the carrot on a stick cliche, executed by the velvet glove covers an iron-fist aphorism. This structure intentionally produces an almost imperceptible type pyramid scheme, where currency is inevitably being suctioned vertical toward a privileged social class, rendering customers inept to acquire and maintain anything of significant value according to elitist status quo. The distribution of income emphasized in World Book encyclopedias published in 1992 via a myriad of sources acknowledges that implemented under capitalism, who shall get the goods and services produced depends mostly on who can afford to buy them. And the amount of goods and services people can afford depends mainly on the size of the income they receive. Under these code of ethics, people earn income by producing the goods and services that consumers demand. Also in reference to World Book Encyclopedia, firms pay managers more wages than they would an unskilled laborer. A firm pays management more beneath the facade that sales and profits of a firm depend on the quality of decisions managers make. The word manager derives from the Latin root manu, signifying hand, as in manuscript, handwriting. The word script, denoting write, is also of Latin origin. An archaic Italian, managere, means to handle or train livestock. A synonym of manage is the word manipulate, which means to handle with skill. And what precisely are these manipulators managing? What exactly are these handlers conditioning with skill? And just what and who are these livestock? The truth is concealed amidst the obviousness of the lie. Proceeds, revenues, profits, bonuses, incentives, prerequisites, perks, etc., intricately extracted out of employees' wages and consumer earnings. In other words, manipulators scheme earnings from unskilled laborers and or trained livestock. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the common ancient Egyptian culture, discussed in the book Metaneta Volume 2, translated in 1994 by the author Ra'a Nefer Amen describes in her chapter The Satanic Perversion of Economics, expresses the consequences induced by reason of such an unbalanced system incorporated by General Pike and his colleagues. Amen explains how man, driven by an intellect and partially developed will dominated by his passions, the Socialist, elitist, have manipulated the masses in order to gain control over the economic resources of the world. Why? It's the key to power. And why do they seek world dominance? The answer is in the animal vehicle, specifically a left side of the brain and testosterone-dominated mentality. Amen continues to imply that they aspire to a degree of wealth that exceeds billions of dollars and property, but succeeds to a state of having impoverished people around to perform all their menial tasks, such as cooking, washing dishes, clothes, cleaning their homes, businesses, hence the establishments of sanitation departments, etc. Thus, the Socialists created poverty. They have successfully manipulated the manipulator, manager, supervisor, landlord, officer, police officer, executive producer, superintendent, administrator, director, chancellor, president, dean, pastor, imam, rabbi, etc., to manipulate our ignorance and greed to establish the concepts of absolute private ownership and money. Money, which is not a factual concept reality, has evolved to being an instrument of exchanging values in society while having no value of its own. Amen further iterates, we must understand that we don't exchange things for money, but things through money. Properly defined, then, money is a measure of material value. Hence, there can be no shortage of money, but of value, manifesting yet another story in itself. Thereof, it is imperative that we, the people, we the masses, we the manipulated, we the humiliated, we the trained livestock, we the unskilled laborer, we the lost sheep, we the blind, we the victim of circumstance, we the products of this global socio-economical beast fully comprehend and assess in its entirety that it was never a matter of race or religion. To them, it is only a matter of divide and conquer. So mote it be. I composed that approximately 13 years ago. Naturally, it's still relevant till this day. I have something else I want to add along to that and share that goes right along with that. Like I said today, again, we're discussing capitalism. And I'm going to go through all its qualms and quirks and rickets and rackets and ghouls and goblins. And I'm going to try to hit most of the bases as far as much as I know. I coined that, by the way. I named that. What I just read to y'all. I coined that. I titled that "An Eye for an Eye." I felt that it was an appropriate title for such a soliloquy, if I do say so myself. An eye for an eye. See, an eye for an eye renders the rest of the world blind. Yes, an eye for an eye renders the rest of the world blind because you're only looking out for your kind. I'm reading these off of memes. I didn't create these myself, but it's something that y'all need to hear nonetheless. I'm gonna reiterate it to y'all. It says in clear, idolized letter, well, you can't see because of the glare, billionaires shouldn't exist. Human brains have not evolved to understand large numbers. As a result, we tend to vastly underestimate how large 1 billion is. This may help. 1 million seconds equals 11 days. 1 million seconds equals 11 days. 1 billion seconds equals 32 years. Let that sink into your cerebral cortex. Billionaires hoard wealth. If you earned 50 million in your lifetime, you would consider yourself rich, but you would still be 950 million away from being a billionaire. A billion is such an incomprehensibly large sum of money that it'll be difficult to actually spend. That's what we mean by hoarding wealth. There is absolutely no reason why anyone should hoard more wealth than they could spend in their lifetime, while others are homeless, starving, or dying of incurable diseases. The wealth gap is increasing. The world's top 26 billionaires own as much wealth as the poorest 3.8 billion people, and that's according to January 21st, 2019 census. Billionaires got 565 billion richer during the pandemic, making 42 billion a week on average. Business Insider, June 4th, 2020. That's the source. In 2019, the number of billionaires grew by 8.5% to 2,825 people, an all-time high. The combined wealth of the world's billionaires reached 9.4 trillion. That's by WealthX, the Billionaire Census 2020. The United States now has 630 billionaires, whose wealth totaled nearly 3.4 trillion as of April 29. Meanwhile, the 400 richest Americans, according to the Forbes rankings, have as much combined wealth as the poorest 64% of American households. That's by CNBC, May 1st, 2020. I'm just going to give you a quote of Bill Gates, 98 billion. Warren Buffett, 67.5 billion. I'm not going to name all the names on this page. I'm just giving you, of course, I gave y'all Jeff Bezos, 187 billion. Mark Zuckerberg, 554 billion. Like I said, there's only 7.1 billion people on this planet. And here it is. I literally have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 people on here that none of them are under $26 billion. This is ridiculous. This is what happens when you have an eye for an eye. While you get up every morning, while your body is coming out of this hypnopompic state, and it's in so much pain, and it goes to wake up, to go and use your skills and talent to make these cronies rich. This type of rich. And you do that 20, 30 years to reach a retirement, to hope you reach a retirement. As if they won't fire your ass for any little thing. The name of the game is chess, not checkers. Billionaires don't earn their wealth. There are 2 ways to becoming a billionaire. Inherit it. 44% of billionaires inherit it. Number 2, cold-blooded, merciless exploitation of the working class. Number 2, if you make $146,000 a year, triple the U.S. median income. it would take you 6,410 years to earn $1 billion. If you make the federal minimum wage, it'll take you almost 70,000 years. A billionaire is not working 70,000 times harder than a janitor. Labor creates wealth. Self-made billionaires acquire their wealth by exploiting the working class. 2 examples. Jeff Bezos, world's richest man and CEO of Amazon, former CEO of Amazon right now. Like I said, this again was published back in like 2019. But anyway, Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man and CEO of Amazon, where employees qualify for food stamps can be fired for taking bathroom breaks and suffer notoriously bad working conditions. He makes more in 1 minute than his warehouse workers make in 1 year. I'll say it again. He makes more in 1 minute than his entire staff, warehouse staff workers, make in 1 year. And that's from the source Forbes magazine. The Waltons of Walmart, another large, giant corporation, consortium, are the world's richest family. The Waltons of Walmart are the world's richest family. Walmart is regularly sued for illegal labor violations, forcing people to work off the clock, denying overtime pay, and subjecting employees to terrible working conditions. They give almost none of their own cash to their charity. Source Forbes, New York Times. Billionaires pay less in taxes than we do. American billionaires pay less in taxes in 2018 than the working class. Another sign that one of the biggest problems in the U.S. is only getting worse. In 2018, billionaires paid 23% of their income in federal, state, and local taxes, while the average American paid 28%. That's from the Business Outsider, October 9th, 2019. This is what we signed up for, people. Billionaires are a threat to democracy. Excerpted from The Hidden Billionaires by Megan Day for Jacobin. Billionaires are some of the most important political figures in the country, but they are unelected, which means the public has no direct way of holding them accountable. They devote massive amounts of money to cutting government programs and slashing taxes on corporations and the rich against the wishes of the majority of the Americans. But when speaking publicly, they almost always say things that Americans broadly agree with or that will improve their image. One of their primary defenses against public outrage is the prevailing impression that many of them are good-hearted, charitable, and have the interest of the general public in mind. Indeed, this pattern of outspokenness only when their views line up with the majority's promoters a right-wing worldview in which billionaires are seen as society's paternalistic benefactors. That couldn't be further from the truth. Billionaires are self-interested, and they go to the great lengths to promote their own well-being over the well-being of everyone else. Obviously. Last but not least, from this article, is billionaires truly do not give a fuck. It will cost $20 billion to end homelessness in the U.S. Mike Bloomberg could do that tomorrow and still have $28 billion to his name. Halting global warming cost Halting global warming would cost $300 billion. The world's 10 richest people could each throw in $30 billion and still have $386 billion among themselves. Many of us are only one really bad year, one medical issue, one lost job from complete financial ruin. Absolutely none of us are one really good year away from becoming billionaires. They don't care about us. Don't cape for them. Don't claim them. Don't defend the indefensible. Source Center for American Progress, Bloomberg Forward's World Billionaires List. Now, I'm going to take you to this. Specifically, something that my darker shaded brethren need to hear that goes along with this capitalist society we are, in captivity over here. Here we go. The term black is defined as chattel, property, in the Black's Law Dictionary. Hence the reason blacks haven't received reparations, for black is not a nationality, whom would be recognized by, nor in the General Assembly of the United Nations. When slavery ended, former slave owners filed claims for settlements on the loss of property with the United States government, e.g. insurance policies / a lien on blacks murdered by police. Lien. Noun. Law. A right to keep possession of property belonging to another person until a debt owned by that person is discharged. Thus, the reason the majority of police are acquitted of the charges thereof. How can you justify the murder of property when the United States Constitution doesn't consider property of life capacity? There is no nationality linked to black. At least that's what they try to get you to believe. But you are Americans. Like I said again, I can't stress this enough. We was already over here when they came over here. And the Pinta, Nina, and Santa Maria. And their Mayflowers. And the rest of those ships. We was already here. This place was already named. The Egyptians been, doing passage back and forth from over here. They named this place Amaru, land of the serpent, because their land was Tamare. Amaru came from Tamare. And we are the Americans. Americans. They breached their treaty. Created this word black and white and classified us under that, and classified themselves under thereof. Now we're here. You want to be recognized, claim your indigenous roots, your sovereignty. Your sovereignty. Claim your indigenous roots by way of treaties, like I said. The treaty that they didn't honor. It's said that you have to go and do it yourself, but here we are. I'm here, I'm giving you this information for free. I hope you take heed. Claim your indigenous roots by way of treaties, for the Constitution is an outdated document. Oh, come on, 1776. Every document has an expiration date. Treaties are international. File your SF-181, your statutory of declaration and your statutory of claim. This liberates you from debtor status to position you into creditor status. UCCC-1 paperwork. This is the land of the capital and commerce. You want liberation, true liberation, you want reparations, study the system you're a part of and master it. And always remember that when you adhere to being black, whether verbally or in any application, social media, internet feed, binding contract, or the like, you have just confirmed that you are a soulless piece of property, like a motor vehicle or a toothbrush in the eyes of the judicial system, the United States judicial system. Like I said again, we're from America. We're the Americans, right? That's why you say the United States of America. They are the United States, but they're of our land. They're of us. Now I'm about to hurt some people's feelings. This next one, and I composed this. capitalism. This is precisely what Hitler was advocating against. Global monopolism. Monopoly, plural, noun, monopolies. The exclusive possession or control of the supply of or trade in a commodity or service. These so-called American neo-Nazis are not authentic. They were spawned from a capitalist ideology society. How can they be called Nazi when in fact the term Nazi is in short a derogatory acronym created by the capitalist Allied forces, signifying the Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nationalist Socialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei? Question. Neo is Greek for new. Socialism, now, a political and economical theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Original German Nazi motto, from each according to ability to each according to need. This so-called modern American neo-Nazi party are not socialist. They are empirically capitalist. Capitalism, now, an economical and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. An era of free market capitalism. Synonyms: private enterprise, free enterprise, private ownership, privatized industries, the free market, individualism. Individualism, the habit or principle of being independent and self-reliant. A culture that celebrates individualism and wealth. The capitalist motto, every man for himself. This neo-Nazi terrorist organization that exists today, whom despises the original man, aka the extreme melanated man, aka the so-called African American, the aka Kamal Nithru, aka Nubian, aka the Americans, the indigenous people of America, are the byproduct of the same political propaganda and rhetoric that was purposely indoctrinated upon the entire world. Thus, in their false intel and their oblique ignorance, they inexorably emerged. Make no mistake, they do not share the same ideology as the original Nazi Party of the Third Reich. The original Nazi Party's motto was, from each according to ability, to each according to need. And this new modern party proclaims to want to make America great again. America is a capitalist society and openly disdains socialism. Definitely two opposing factors, thus two different types of parties. In fact, the current members aren't even of German lineage. None of them are even at least 5% of German pedigree, excluding the ancestry of the British Royal House of Windsor family, whom in turn fled Germany to re-establish their district hierarchy and are exclusively the direct bloodline of the German nobility via Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, which was in fact the primordial family name of the House of Windsor before World War I, after Germany was obligated to dissolve its entire sovereign traditions and practice under the strict mandate of the Treaty of Versailles. These neo-Nazi terrorists are the direct descendants of the indigenous beings of England, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, and Scotland, Ireland, which consisted of an interbred amalgamation of Cro-Magnon tribes, Neanderthal Congress, Homo erectus, and Mongoloid clans, which encompass the Isles of Scotland and Ireland, and not of Nordic, Aryan, Caucasoid descent. The sheer fact that Germany always opposed the so-called African-American slave trade and were not interested in any form of colonialism until the 1930s, when Hitler and his Socialist Party decided it was in the best interest of the world to rout out the entire sole culprit of economic schisms from Europe. The Rothschilds, a so-called Jewish dynasty established in the Holy Roman Empire of Germany, cornered the market in the early 1760s and dominated the world in capital, currency, and monetary assets with their sole central banking system by funding both sides in wars and many other despicable double-handed schemes and malpractices. Hitler was a socialist who organized the original Nazi political party and not by any means an emperor or Führer like the patrons of his conquerors will lead you to believe. Again, socialism, noun, a political and economical theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. The community, meaning me and you. Not one individual, not the government. Get that through your heads. Think about it. And they got you talking trap about socialism. Think about what I just said. Which simply means everyone eats. And the original Nazi Party motto was from each according to ability to each according to need. As opposed to capitalism, now an economical and political system in which a country's trade and industry is controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state, which in turn inevitably produces poverty, poor and impoverished people, debt, and homelessness. Herr Hitler's intentions was to destroy the Rothschilds and their system of greed and false entitlement. It is empirical that Herr Hitler was an avid occultist and very fond of many forms of sacred texts. Revelation 29, 2 and 9, King James Version, I know thy works and tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. That's in the Bible. That's Revelations 2 and 9. Revelations 3 and 9, King James Version. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Yes, the Bible said that. I didn't say it. I didn't make it up. Revelations 18 and 14, King James Version. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with its glory. And it cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And who else are they talking about? The United States of America. The United States. Drunken of the blood of the land that they stole. Savages! And that's the part. They got enough to call other people savages. When you raped women, took their babies from them, sold them, raped men in front of their own village. Hang people from trees via lynch mobs, cut their private parts off and stick it in their mouth? Who's the savage? And I heard another voice from heaven say, Come out of her, my people, that ye may not partake of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. I'm going to say that last part again. Revelation 18:14 is the last part. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye not partake of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Herr Hitler only had a problem with one group in particular, and that was the ones calling themselves Jews. In fact, Herr Hitler was in league with most Arabs of his time. This collaboration was the anti-Semitism of the Nazis, which was admired by some Arab and Muslim leaders, most notably Haj Amin al-Husayni. In public and private, Hitler made warm statements about Islam as a religion and political ideology, describing it as a more disciplined, militaristic, political, and practical form of religion than Christianity, and commended what they perceived to be Muhammad's skill in politics and military leadership. Herr Hitler's only argument about the African American participating in the 1936 Olympics was based on a premise that the African American was deliberately bred and engineered for endurance and strength for a period of over 400 years to accommodate American plantation owners and colonization of the Americas amid the African American slave trade, thus bearing the argument that they were hybrids and methodically produced and not of natural selection as of other nations of the world, and that it would not be fair to the other participant nations to compete with such a calculatedly mutated specimen. Germany, Deutschland, always openly opposed the African slave trade way before Herr Hitler. You never heard of German plantations in America or in the Caribbean islands. Ever! Germany always despised the fact that England, Spain, France, and Portugal was invested in such inhumane atrocities. German nobles unite for Texas colonization, April 20th, 1842, and Aldasvarian, the Society for the Protection of German Immigrants in Texas, was provisionally organized by 21 German noblemen of Berbick on the Rhine near Mainz. The society was formed to establish a new Germany on Texas soil by means of an organized mass emigration. In May 1842, the association sent two of the members, Counts Joseph of Boos-Weldeck and Victor August of Leningrad, to Texas to purchase land. In January of 1843, Boos-Weldeck bought a square league, 4,428 acres, in what is now Fayette County, near Industry, as the base for future colonization. The first immigrants disembarked in Texas in December 1844, near Calshephan, later Indianola. The society brought more than 7,000 Germans to Texas. It also established Texas as a major goal of subsequent immigration from Germany. Hitler did not have any problems with any of the African nations' athletes who competed in the 1936 Olympics. The conqueror always rewrites history and manipulates the narratives as they see fit for their personal political agenda. Thus, the Corporation of the United States of America adopted the proselytized version of Hitler's, advocating the blonde and blue-eyed man as a superior race, and purposely omitted the fundamental reason behind his extermination of the so-called Jews. Hitler's convictions motivated him to aggressively act against the elitist secret societies who were in league with the infamous Rothschilds, banking institutions that had such a supernatural stranglehold on global economics. And there you have it, in a nutshell. I hope y'all minds are opened and y'all can receive this information and assess it in its entirety and process it and put it to practical use after you come to some sort of conclusion that you are living in a dream world. That all that you are, bump the title you got on your job, a manager, an officer, a this or that. You ain't nothing but a conscious, consenting slave. Period. And the thing is, with my black people, we got this thing where we're this fad where we call each other king, queens, and gods. Not anymore. You're a slave. What are you going to do about it? What are y'all going to do about it? Because that's the reality of it. I just gave you a myriad of sources. Y'all not tired? I'm the Reverend Rock of East of Eden Readings. And I'm out.